I think the change in Malaga that's occurred over the years since we first came here has been enormous. As I said earlier, we used to say it was the Picasso effect, because people began to come to Malaga to see the Picasso Museum and learn not only about Picasso, but about his surroundings, where he came from. It used to be when we would read books about Picasso that they would say he was French. And you know, you'd be, well, that's not true. And then they would say he's Catalan because he was known for working in Barcelona. But all of a sudden people realized that really his birthplace was as important as any other place he worked. So many people came to Malaga, and I think that Malaga itself changed. When we first came, we visited places like the Teatro Cervantes, and it was in ruins, but you know, all of Malaga has improved, all aspects of the cultural life.
Also, when we first came, there were coach tours from the Costa del Sol to Malaga, and the only place actually in the city that they visited was Corte Inglés. They didn't go into the center, they didn't see the cathedral. It was shopping, and that was the only interest for people coming from the coast. So the change is unbelievable.
Well, I think it provides a focus on the sources of his creativity. I think the collection itself is broad enough to have interest in different areas. So it's, again, putting those things in the context of his native town, his birthplace. I think, though, that in the future, that the aspirations of this museum are wonderful, that the idea to do exhibitions by other artists, to show them alongside Picasso, not to compare them, but to kind of give a kind of almost focus on art, on creativity. Picasso was, if anything, the most creative artist that we can think of our time. But then to put another artist into that mix is really provides a wonderful opportunity. And I think that the idea of incorporating other aspects of art, music, dance, into the museum itself. It is a beautiful museum. So is a good thing about the museum and its position in the future. One thinks that everything has been written, studied about this artist, and it's not true. Even in the present exhibition, the Royan sketchbooks, which the two of us have been working on very solidly for quite a number of months, when we see the works together, we realize there's more. There's more to be done. There's an exhibition about Goya. There's an exhibition about the way he painted, the actual application of paint in this period compared to other periods. There are always, I think, things that come up, and that's why Picasso is perhaps one of the most interesting artists to study.
And there's still a lot of documentation which has not been published or not been adequately published. And the organization of many of the archives has been quite chaotic, which means that, and also access has often been limited, which means that for scholars who want to study certain aspects of Picasso, it's very difficult. If one wants to look, for example, at his collaboration with printers or with paint manufacturers, it's extremely difficult to find the material. And when we have been able to do that, we worked, for example, on his use of commercial paint, of Ripolin, and we found a huge amount of material. I mean, working with the colleagues who discovered a great deal, which was completely unknown. And I think there are still many, many aspects, particularly outside the kind of standard art historical aspects, which remain to be discovered.
I think another thing about Picasso is the way he was able to move from one medium to another. He could paint, he could draw, he could make assemblages, he could do prints, he could do ceramics, he could write poetry. He was an artist for whom making art was everything. And I think there's been a focus on the part of some people now to look at his personal life and to look at his politics and that sort of thing. And yes, he was a person who had those parts of his life, but basically he was concentrated on making art. And I think any young artist can learn from that. They can do it in a different form, different materials, but they can realize art in the same way.